guys, and welcome to the first of what I hope is going to be a series of video tutorials for forum roleplay boards. Today, what I want to achieve is a guide to creating HTML styles that you can use in your posts, specifically ones that don't require heavy templating and that you can sort of adapt to use to whatever you want. A lot of what I see at the moment is pre-made templates, beautifully coded template systems that don't necessarily fit with the rest of the theme of the board. And if you do something like this, where you've got a simple set of headers and tables and all that sort of stuff, you can create your own documentation and have it laid out in a really nice way, and using your own colors and your own sort of sense of style. If you're familiar with CSS and HTML, this is going to be extremely easy, and more than likely you already do that. If you're not as familiar with HTML and CSS, stick with me, because what we're doing is so very basic that you can learn it. And the more that you play with it, the better you'll get at it, and that's an absolute promise. So what we're doing is we're going to use doHTML and some very basic CSS classes and really get ourselves a couple of things that we can use in a post. So obviously I already have something set up here on Tally, and I'll show you what I've got. So I've got my main header, which is this one here, and I've got my subheaders, which are these ones in the orange. Aside from that, all I use is a block quote and unordered list. For a couple of other things, I occasionally use tables, and tables I generally style as I go because every table has a different purpose. But yeah, it's very useful, and I use these headings all over the board. So when you look at things like my essential topics, this topic for instance, so you've got the main heading, you've got the subheadings, and it really carries through that consistency. For something with a table, so we've got the headings, the main headings, the subheadings. This is a table. It's not a very good looking table, but it is a table. Probably one of the better tables that I've got set up is in the Adoption Center, and that is displayed here. So this is all done with very simple HTML and CSS styles. Like, there's nothing very complicated about this. And there's absolutely no reason why anyone can't learn it. Welcome to my staff area, by the way. It's very exciting. We're almost never in here. Alright, so let's get started. So the first thing is to log into your ACP, which looks a little something like this. And you might be a little bit daunted by the prospect of enabling doHTML, especially if you heard the old story that it can allow security issues through and all sorts of malicious coding and stuff like that. But the good news is, if you are a little bit shy of that, you are able to do this by only enabling yourself and only in the forums that you want it enabled to. You don't have to enable doHTML for everyone, but it is certainly a very useful tool as an admin for creating documentation. So what you need to do is you need to go into your group, which for me is Stuffies, and down here you will see, I always lose it, can use the doHTML tag. So you want to make sure that's checked to yes. And that will now allow your user group to use doHTML in any forum that has doHTML enabled. So you've got a sort of a two-check system where can the user group use it and is it allowed in this forum. If either of those is a no, there's no ability to use doHTML. So the next thing you need to do, of course, is to go into Manage Forums and into the forum that you want to enable for doHTML. So whenever I'm playing around with HTML, I always do it in my staff area, so that I can play around and see what I like. But that's not necessarily, you can build it wherever you like. I like to build it in my staff area and then move it out afterwards. You may do things differently, but just make sure that doHTML is enabled where you're going to build the topic and where the topic is going to. So you'll find that setting down here with allow use of the doHTML tag, and just make sure that's checked to yes, which it is because I've been here and done this, and that is everything we need to do there for the moment. So we'll start a new topic and we'll call it test. What I like to do is I like to start by adding my doHTML tags in first, because I often forget to close them. The next thing I do is I put in a div, because I never really know if I want to change anything about the background of it, so I put a div in there anyway. Then we put a span tag, we'll call this the big header, and small header. And the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to put in a table for styling, so I can show you a bit of that as well. I cheat when it comes to tables. I use this thing. It's fantastic because it gives me a visual representation of the table that I'm creating, and if you're like me and you suck at reading HTML, especially tables which look quite complicated when they're laid out like this, so we'll go with 2 rows, 2 columns. So that will be this. So we've got left, head, and I like to put something in these just so that I know what is what. And I will put the link to this in the description as well, and then just click generate. And there you've got a very basic table code that you can copy over. Now with this you can do so much, like you can, okay, let's add columns to the right, and then we want this to be, so you've got, you know, you can create very complex tables this way. And then yeah, just regenerate and it'll show you exactly what you've got. So it's a very useful tool if you find yourself building a lot of tables, and the styling is no different to what I'm going to go back and do in a second. So now that we've got that, what we need to do is we need to define classes for each of these elements. So in the opening tag, you want to add class equals, okay, so this is a post div. This one, we'll call it big header. Small header, they have to be one word. And sometimes if you can't remember what other classes you've already got, just name them whatever. I shudder to think how it might look if someone was ever to read through my my CSS classes, because some of them are a little bit inappropriately named, I'm not gonna lie. I just get bored and I write absolute gibberish. So this is what it looks like at the moment. So you've got your class equals, and what we're going to do is we're just going to keep that there for a minute while we go into skins and templates, manage skin sets, and pick the style sheet for the relevant skin. So we've got post div, big header, small header. We want to add these in here. So full stop, post div, two curly brackets, two curly brackets. What else have we got? Left head, right head. You'll have to forgive my typing. I've got massive nails at the moment. And left bop, right bop. Okay, so we're going to do that before I save this, because otherwise I'm going to forget what those classes were. They aren't going to show on the final product. So I will save that, which is why we do this in a staff area, because this does not look very exciting at all. Not even close. Alright, so what we do now is we've got this, and I've decided, okay, we'll save those edits, and we're going to come back to this because I want to get some cool fonts. So welcome to Google Fonts. If you haven't discovered the awesomeness that is Google Fonts, get into it. It's cool as. So I've decided that I want to create a sort of a techno style theme. I'm not going to be using it because it's got no relevance, but these are pretty cool fonts. So these are all free to use. So I click the button there, add that to my list, add that to my list. Sweet. Now what you've got here is an embed link, which you can just copy. Go back to manage skin sets, go into your board wrappers, and just below JavaScript and before head, the close head, paste that bit of information. And what that pretty much tells the site is to look at Google Fonts for these two fonts and use them on the board. Okay, so as you can see, those are the fonts that I'm using at the moment. These are the ones that we're going to use in this tutorial here. So we'll save that. Alright, so now that we've got all that set, we can go back to manage skin sets, go to style sheet, and all the way back down the bottom where I've got these. Alright, so let's try styling that big header first. So first thing I want to do is I want to make it expand to the width, and I don't want anything to sit beside it. So I'm going to have a display block. Next thing I want is I want it to be big. So let's try 40 pixels, not 4. Now, where's my favorite color picker? It's not this one. It's this one. Again, I'm going to put all of these references. Okay, let's have something purple. I love purple. So whenever you use color in CSS, it always refers to the text color. To define a background color, you need to define background color or just background. So what we've got is we've got it set to display as block, we've got a font size of 40 pixels, we've got this gorgeous purple color, and over here you'll see what the references are for the particular fonts that we've picked. Now I want to use Chunga for this, so we're just going to copy and paste that over there. And when we edit the style sheet, you will see over here, look at that. How good's that? But we're not done yet, obviously. So maybe we put in background. Let's make it black, which is 3 zeros, 3 F's is white. And some padding. What padding does is it gives it a bit of space around the actual topic, the actual element, and border bottom 4 pixels solid. Let's go with green, a nice deep green like that. Obviously I'm designing something that I would never use otherwise, but I kind of love anyway. So that's what that looks like. That's a nice big header, right? Let's make some more padding. I don't think that padding's enough, so we'll make it 10 is my usual, and just keep playing with it until you get it right. See how that's added some space there? We can go back and make that a brighter color purple if we want. So remember, it was under color. Change that. Refresh. There we go. That's nice. Let's even make that 14 pixels. How's that sound? Just keep playing. And if at any point, if you use Chrome, what you can also do is use developer tools. So when you select that, you'll see down here you've got, okay, it's display block, 40 pixels. How does it look at 60? No, I think I liked 40. Let's try bringing that down to 10. Maybe 10's better. So you've got that sort of ability to test your experimenting as you go, rather than making all of your changes, saving, refreshing. I tend to prefer save and refresh, purely because I will lose my edits. Another useful one is text align, so let's send that to the right, which is going to, no, sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. Why is that not there? Did I not save it? That's why. Okay. Text align tells it where to sit. So you've got your left, your center, and your right. Some other fun things. I believe it's letter spacing. I'm trying to recall these off the top of my head. Yep, so letter spacing puts spaces in between there. That can be very effective. And there's a lot you can do with these particular CSS effects. Like I've got the text shadow there and all sorts of things. So have a good experiment with that. So what we can also do is, I'm just going to chuck a margin will tell how tell it how to push other elements around it. So I've just added a 20 pixel gap between there, which means that nothing is going to sit above where that small header sits. And that's pretty much just for this demonstration. I wouldn't normally do it. I wouldn't normally push things down that far. So what we're going to do now is we're going to play with the small header. Let's have some fun. So first I want to use this other font, V323. Go away. And let's make it blue, because blue is my favorite color. And let's make it 20 pixels. We'll see how that looks. Oh, and display block. So you can see how that's changed what we've got there. Now I can definitely make that larger. That's quite a small font naturally. And I think that's going to look cool with some letter spacing. So let's put that in. Awesome. Alright, so one pixel, not one pixel, let's make it 4 pixels dashed. What color for the border? Let's make it purple. So it kind of ties in with the other one. So you can see how it's starting to tie together a little bit. And if you used these headers consistently through something, you're quite easily able to create something very effective. So let's see what else we've got. So we've got the table. Now I don't think when I did this I added a table class. So we'll add that in now, because one of the most important things that I find with tables is setting the width to 100%. Because as you can see, it's quite pushed together at the moment. Now that we've got that width set, it's going to balance itself out. Once you put content in it, it will change things, but you can fix that depending on how you've got your things set out, so that you've got 50% width on your header rows. I believe that's there. No, actually I think I've done that wrong. Ignore that. Okay, so you've got that set there, and now, okay, let's set some styles for this table. We'll have a background color of that for both of them. Now the reason that I've given them two separate CSS classes is because I want to style them independently of each other, but some of the elements are going to be the same. So as you can see, we've got that. I'm just going to give that a margin at the top. Again, this is just to separate the elements out a little bit, because I didn't put any line breaks in the original HTML. So that's just going to push that down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Let's put some yellow in there. How's that sound? So we've got a background of that, and the text color is going to be that. And we're going to keep that for both of them. Both left and right. So we've got that. But say I want to use different fonts for them. Because I've got them independently defined, I can use Changa on one and VT323 on the other. So you can see how that applies. We've got the two different fonts now. Obviously one display is a whole lot smaller than the other, but there's nothing wrong with that. So say I want my table to be a whole different color in the background. We go into the class that I've defined as the table element, and let's go with dark blue. Dark blue is good. and that's just going to color the entire background of the table and anything that is defined above that. So because we've got these header rows colored independently, they're going to override the table background color, kind of like a layer. Alright, so now we just need to style the text inside these, and because again I've given them their own CSS classes, I can style them independently. So let's say we want this one to have a big font size in Changa, and I do often copy and paste through my own CSS. It just makes it easier, and a lot of the time when you're styling elements, you've got very, very similar values to something else, and you can just copy and paste it and edit it as you need it. And what color? Let's go with something like that. That looks cool. So if we see that, you can see how that one's changed, but that one hasn't. Helps if I write this properly. So you can see there that it's changed while that one hasn't. Obviously it looks a bit squished in there, so let's add some padding. 30 pixels, because it's quite chunky writing. There you go, beautiful. And on the right hand side, say we want all of that again, but we want to use the other font. So just copy that over, make sure to replace the old one. There we go. So there's a lot you can do with this, and then we can go in here and, okay, so add block quote. Here's some text. More text, yay. And under here we might have an unordered list. So we'll see what that looks like. So you can see how these headers can then be used with your regular text styles on the board, or because we've got that that div in the background, we can actually style them according to how we like. So post div, let's make the color, that's probably too close to what I've actually got. Let's make it pink. Pink sounds good. Like that. Font size, let's bump it up to 14 pixels, and we'll make it Georgia. I like Georgia. Georgia is one of the pre-installed fonts that you will find anywhere. So that will change that from your CSS. And the benefit of doing it this way, of you using CSS and doHTML to style your information topics, is not only is it extremely versatile once you've got a few of these systems set up, and you can write basically any documentation using a few very short pieces of HTML. And it fits in with your style, but you can also restyle it according to whatever skin you're using. So you don't have to go back and recode and recode and recode. You just need to, if you're updating your skin, you just need to change the CSS styles to reflect that new skin. Or if you use multiple skins, you can use these same CSS classes and just redefine them in colors that suit the skin that you've got. It gives you so much flexibility and so much easier than hard coding styles in, and even easier than BB code, if you ask me. Um, if you do want to go down the BB code way, you can use CSS classes as well to create shortcuts that will make these headers styles for you as well. But I find it much easier to just use doHTML, and the results are really effective. So long as you've got an idea of, try and stick to two, maybe three fonts, and probably no more than four colors. But I've hoped that this has been informative and useful, and that I've not bored you at all, or over explained anything that doesn't need explaining at all. Um, I will leave the links to the resources that I use here, including the full CSS reference, the HTML table generator, and Google Fonts, so that you can look at those at your own leisure. There is so much you can do with CSS. Just have a play and enjoy yourselves, and please let me know what you create. I really want to see some awesome creations. So cheers guys, and thanks for watching.